Hey everyone, this is Karen. Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about unnecessary thinking. If you clicked on this video, maybe you're starting to feel that your thoughts are problematic. Maybe you're overwhelmed by how many thoughts you're having. Maybe you're overwhelmed by the content of your thoughts. So let's start this off with some statistics. So researchers have conducted a lot of research on thinking, and they found that the average human being has 70,000 thoughts per day. 80% of those thoughts tend to be negative. And this is probably the most startling statistic for me, is that 94% of the thoughts we have today are the same thoughts we had yesterday. And it's no wonder that we start to feel stuck, because we're literally in this constant mental loop, replaying the same memories, the same thoughts, the same judgments. So it's no wonder we feel stuck. So, you might be asking, well, what's wrong with thinking, right? Isn't that, we're born with this ability to think, and quite often we find it useful and we think it's helping us. But as I've mentioned before, there are just some problems that we can't solve on the level of the mind. And as we start to really detach from our thoughts and we start to tune into this spacious awareness outside of thought, we start to find power in that. When I'm teaching classes on meditation, I always ask the question, well, what does meditation mean? And quite often people believe that it means thinking, and they're very caught off guard when I say, well, actually, when we meditate, we want to go into this space of no thinking. We want to go into this space of no thought, because as we explore that space more, we start to see that there is an intelligence far beyond thought. And that is actually that gap in which greatness happens. And the more we can tune into that, not only is it the more peace we'll have in our life, but the more we're really in touch with this power of greatness. So what's wrong with thinking, right? And here's where I want to differentiate with effective thoughts and necessary thoughts versus unnecessary thoughts. And we really want to tackle the unnecessary thoughts. But first, let's talk about necessary thoughts. This is a question that I want you to ask yourself. Anytime you're caught in this stream of thinking, you're going down the rabbit hole, and even if you're getting a little bit of a pause, you don't know if they're unnecessary or necessary thoughts. This is the question I want you to ask yourself. Are these thoughts going to lead to an action today? And think about that, right? Is this stream of thinking leading to an action I am going to take today? Not an action I should take today, not an action that I think I'm going to take today, an action that I'm going to take today. What does this look like? This might look like, I might be working late tonight. I need someone to pick my daughter up from school. Let me see who I can find to fill in. Or, something just came up. I have to move this morning meeting. Let me think about when's a better time to move this meeting to. Or, there's something I've been really needing to get off my chest with, a spouse or a boss maybe. And, I think today I really need to have this conversation. All of those examples are leading to an action today. And that is either necessary thinking or thinking that makes sense, right? You're going to take some action today. Maybe it's like, oh, I forgot to pick this up from the store. Thoughts like that are pretty harmless. And those are thoughts that they're okay to keep. What we really want to tackle are the unnecessary thoughts. So number one, anything that's a judgment. Any kind of judgment will never serve us. So this is like, oh, this person's so selfish. I should have known 3 years ago. He ate the last cookie at the Christmas party. I should have known he was selfish. Now look at him talking in this meeting, taking up all the time. You know these thoughts we have about people. And sometimes they're total strangers. Like, oh, look at what that person's wearing. Or these kind of judgments, they're all unnecessary. Not only are they all unnecessary, there's no opportunity for growth here. We're just condemning and criticizing people. And these kinds of thoughts will never serve us. So these thoughts we can always put in the unnecessary category. Then there are other thoughts that are unnecessary thoughts. They are more focused on the future, but there may be an opportunity there. There may be a way for us to bring that to the present moment. So, this could be fears we have with our children, like, oh, so-and-so, my daughter's been, really talking back a lot. I'm concerned. Is she going to turn out like this 10 years from now? Is she going to be this type of person 15 years from now? So that kind of thinking, it's very rooted in the future. It's very rooted in things we have no control over. But even that kind of unnecessary thinking, maybe there's a way we can bring it back. Maybe there's something we do think we could, is there anything I can start doing differently today? So with those kinds of thoughts, we can slowly bring them back and ask ourselves, well, what action can I take today? Maybe I want to relate to my child differently because I'm concerned about where their behavior is heading down, right? It could also be like, let's say we're in a relationship with somebody, and we're like, oh, my partner has so-and-so problem, and I'm afraid for 5 years from now, if he keeps spending like this, we're going to end up in the poorhouse, And again, those thoughts, these stories we're creating, a lot of them are based on the future, things that have not happened yet, things that may never happen yet. But these kinds of unnecessary thoughts. They're also thoughts that there's an opportunity to bring it to the present moment. Maybe you haven't had a real conversation with your partner or your spouse about money, and maybe that's a conversation you can have today. So those situations, we want to ask ourselves, well, what can I do today? What action can I do today? And kind of bring that to the present moment, so we're not lost in this future reality that hasn't come yet. So for the thoughts that are purely unnecessary, when we really start kind of going down the rabbit hole, sometimes being critical or judgmental, one thing that really helps for me is what I say to this thought when I'm aware of it is I say, let's close the book on this today, and let's just come back to it tomorrow. And this is a very interesting way to approach this. And I kind of learned this method. One time I took a 30-day mindful eating class. And it was literally just, like a 15-minute audio recording that I was listening to every day for 30 days. And it's very interesting because the author of this class, she kind of talked about this voice we have in our head, the dieter voice, the rioter voice, and these voices are kind of combating each other. So she says that when you're tempted to eat, a piece of cake, a piece of chocolate or something like that, she tells you, don't tell yourself you're never going to have it. Don't tell yourself you can't have it, because that's going to aggravate that rioter voice, which is going to come back with a vengeance, right? So what she says is, I'm just not going to eat it today, right? So I'm just not going to eat it right now. And then just move on. And if tomorrow you're tempted again by the cake, you just say, I'm just not going to have it today. And I use that same method when I'm dealing with really angry thoughts or really troublesome thoughts. I say, you know what? Not today. I'm just going to close the book on this today, come back tomorrow. And what this allows us to do, it allows us to be aware of the thought without resisting it. Because when we start to resist things, the voice gets louder. When we start to resist that critical voice, the critical voice gets louder and angrier, and then it just really stirs up these negative feelings in us. So what we want to do is we want to acknowledge the voices there. We want to acknowledge that that voice is not us. And we want to gently quiet it. And one way to do this is by saying, not today. I'll think about this tomorrow. And tomorrow, if the thought comes back, you do the same thing. You say, you know what? I'm not going to think about this today. And then when the day comes where it actually is something that's relevant to today, then you attack it. Then you deal with it. Then you handle it. But if it's not relevant to today, it's not serving you anymore, then we're just going to put it off. We're just come again another day, right? That's what we're going to say. So if you clicked on this video, first of all, I want to congratulate you, because if you're interested in this video, it means that you're even aware of what your thoughts are. You're aware of, either the content of your thoughts or maybe even the volume of your thoughts. And that's a huge accomplishment. It's really part of the evolution of our consciousness to become aware of these thoughts that have really held us for so long. So I want to say congratulations. You're on the right path.